I've teased this episode for a while, and now we can finally fully delve into the disharmonious history between the Twilight Zone and legendary author Ray Bradbury. I Sing the Body Electric was the only writing credit Bradbury received for the series, but his shadow loomed large, and his influence undeniably affected what we saw across this whole show. To tell this story, we have to go back to the beginning of the series. Very soon after getting a green light from CBS, Rod Serling approached Bradbury about being heavily involved. At the time, Serling wasn't really a sci-fi writer. He had made his name on deep, realistic dramas and was upset that networks kept censoring the real-world issues he often tried to bring into his stories. Using the guise of the Twilight Zone, he was able to put a lot of those societal commentaries out there, but at this point in the late 1950s, he was looking for writers to help out. Bradbury loaded Serling up on essential reading to get him more familiar with the sci-fi genre and suggested to immediately hire two of his protégés. Those protégés were Richard Matheson and Charles Beaumont. Later, George Clayton Johnson was also brought on board through his association with that group. Even without writing a ton of episodes, Bradbury's impact on the series was huge. Besides just being a highly influential author across science fiction, he directly supplied Serling with a writing team that had credits on 45 episodes in total. So, why didn't Bradbury write more Twilight Zone stories? Apparently, he tried. According to Mark Zickery's The Twilight Zone companion book, Bradbury submitted a script right away titled Here There Be Tigers, based on one of his short stories. It involved a team of astronauts traveling to a sentient planet. The teleplay was too ambitious for the show, and Buck Houghton was said to have admitted shooting the whole thing just wasn't feasible. Another script was sent in called A Miracle of Rare Device, again based on Bradbury's short story of the same name. This time it was purchased and received a production number. Director Tony Leader was tentatively assigned to direct, and yet it never happened. From what I dug up, the reason is not specifically known. Then we got to Season 3, and I Sing the Body Electric. Rod wanted to get a deal done with Bradbury and finally get an episode of his made. Bradbury already wasn't the fondest of the series since he was supposed to be a major contributor and wasn't used. Plus, there had been some negative circumstances that piled up for the author. It came down to Rod saying he'd do a few things for Ray that just didn't get accomplished. But now, they were finally going to produce a script together. Bradbury had only one condition. Not a single word of his teleplay was to be changed. The terms were agreed upon, and I Sing the Body Electric started shooting in October of 1961, with James Sheldon directing. Things did not go smoothly from there. The production team wasn't happy with how the episode was shaping up and decided to reshoot almost the entire thing in February of 1962. Bradbury was supposedly brought back in for some script revisions. Among the significant changes, William F. Claxton replaced James Sheldon, and the small role of Aunt Nidra was recast with Doris Packer playing the part. This is why I Sing the Body Electric is one of only a pair of installments to be credited to two directors. The other was Season 1's The Mighty Casey, where Alvin Ganzer and Robert Parrish shared the title. By the time the episode aired on May 18, 1962, Bradbury was said to have been excited to see it. He had some friends over to watch, but he was not happy with what he saw. Because of time constraints, they cut one page out of his script. Little did they know it was Bradbury's most important section. He claimed it contained the whole reason he wrote the story in the first place. The author was furious, and it led to negative feelings toward the Twilight Zone for the rest of his life. He declined to be interviewed for Zickery's companion book and refused to talk about his full experience for many years. One of the only quotes we have from Serling on the matter was from shortly before his death in 1975. He said, quote, "Ray Bradbury is a very difficult guy to dramatize because that which reads so beautifully on the printed page doesn't fit in the mouth, it fits in the head. And you find characters saying the things that Bradbury's saying and you say, wait a minute, people don't say that." End quote. Much can be lost from page to screen, so I understand Rod's point, but he had access to Ray Bradbury, who was ready, willing, and able to work on the show. It's disappointing that didn't come to fruition. It doesn't sound like Rod had any ill will toward Ray. He was one of his favorite sci-fi writers, and Rod of course threw an homage the author's way in Walking Distance, Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up, and To Stop at Willoughby. There's even more to this very complicated friendship, including accusations of unconscious plagiarism and additional details. You should check out the Twilight Zone companion scribe Mark Scott Zickery's YouTube video on the situation. He's obviously an expert on Rod's dealings within the show and was friends with Ray Bradbury. He told Zickery the whole story firsthand, so if you want a more full picture on the matter, watch his 24-minute breakdown. Now, let's dive into the Twilight Zone's 100th episode, I Sing the Body Electric. Titled after the Walt Whitman poem, this installment sees widower George Rogers and his 3 children in the midst of grief after losing their wife/mother. After an extended stay, the kids' Aunt Nidra is just leaving, with George now unsure what to do moving forward. His son, Tom, brings down a magazine called Modern Science and suggests checking out a company named Facsimile Limited. They manufacture electronic data processing systems that are built into human female-looking robots. Their main objective is to care for children and look after families. George brings the kids to the company's factory, where different body parts are laid out to choose the appearance of their robot. The eldest, Anne, runs out of the building after not wanting a replacement for their mother, but the 2 youngest proceed to pick their favorite parts that will make up their new nanny. Soon after, the robot shows up at their doorstep, where Tom and Karen quickly take a liking to the charming humanoid machine. Referred to as Grandma, she fits in with the family perfectly. However, after the robot's been around a while, Anne still resents her and runs out of the house. Grandma chases her down the street, where she attempts to get to the bottom of Anne's hatred. For all the anticipation Bradbury garnered for finally writing an episode, this unfortunately wasn't that great. You can see that there might have been production problems, as it's inconsistent and not as tight as most of these shows usually are. The format strays from the standard a bit, and not in an advantageous way. Where sentimentality was a strength in many of Bradbury's works, the jump to the small screen, in this particular case, didn't land. But we can hardly blame him, since that missing page was evidently so important. It does have the Twilight Zone sense of mixing the uncanny with heartfelt sincerity, yet there's something clearly missing, and the pacing of this story may have something to do with that. The acting in general isn't too shabby. David White was a welcomed presence as the dad after seeing him in Season 1's A World of Difference. Vaughn Taylor had such a wide range spanning his 5 episodes, this was his 3rd. While it's not as enjoyably wacky as Teague from Still Valley, his salesman scene is the freakiest thing here.
Eyes, soft brown, vivid blue. Any color you choose. Slender or sturdy?
Listen.
I sing the body electric.
Her voice is too high.
I celebrate myself and sing myself.
Dana Dillaway also returned after One for the Angels as the middle daughter, Karen, and the uncredited David Armstrong had very brief parts in a total of 5 TZ outings. While Josephine Hutchinson is fine as the featured player, portraying a robotic grandma in a sort of Mary Poppins role, the real shining star of this one was Veronica Cartwright as the oldest Rogers daughter, Anne.
She's not real. She's a machine. Nothing but an old machine.
She had some chops. This part called for a few emotional scenes, and she really pulled them off.
She let herself die. She shouldn't have done that to me. She shouldn't. She left me.
It's no wonder she's had such a long career, and everything from The Birds to Alien to stuff as recent as that Gotham Knights show on the CW. James Sheldon partially helmed his last of 6 episodes. He was one of the directors who covered a couple of the videotaped installments from Season 2 and has It's a Good Life to his name. With the exception of The Whole Truth, his episodes were of pretty darn good quality. As for his replacement, William F. Claxton, his 4 shows were a little more mixed, highlighted by The Last Flight and The Jungle. Point is, both these guys were very talented, and neither of them could fit the pieces together to make I Sing the Body Electric work as well as it should have. Anne admits to Grandma that she hates her mother for leaving. The death of Mrs. Rogers has hit her oldest daughter the hardest, and Anne doesn't want to go through that pain all over again with another motherly figure. George arrives just in time to see a distraught Anne walk out into the middle of the street with a van whipping around the corner. Grandma speeds to push her out of the way and is hit by the vehicle instead. After not moving for a moment, Grandma springs to life and comforts Anne. The girl then accepts her, knowing she's indestructible and will never leave her the way Mrs. Rogers did. One loving montage later, all the kids are of college age, and Grandma's job is done. The robot says her goodbyes, looking to return to Facsimile Limited, where she'll either be stripped for parts or used to help another family. But first, her mind will go into a room of voices, where she'll share her experiences with similar machines. Grandma's one hope is that after a long while, she may actually gain true life. With her final farewell, she sends the 3 adults she helped raise upstairs and emotionally goes on her way. Rod's narration, taking us home. The last scene without a doubt feels rushed. The father character isn't even there, which might suggest he passed away or something, but it's never brought up. Grandma says they're all going off to college at the same time. It's just a clunky finish all around. Rod doesn't even end his final narration by saying the Twilight Zone, although he did narrate the montage before the last sequence, a rarity that outside of here only happened in Time Enough at Last, Walking Distance, and I Shot an Arrow into the Air. The big problem here is that time jump. It comes out of nowhere and really wasn't needed. You can tell where that extra sequence might have gone before the scene in the street. There's really nowhere to go after that unless this was a feature film and could be fleshed out more. However awkwardly it was handled, Anne accepted Robo-Grandma and there's not much else to say. Cartwright does a good job with the material. I just thought that confronting the real reason she hated the robot was the whole story, with a side of strangely compassionate singularity. The structure and tone seem to be the main culprits holding this one back from being a heartfelt favorite. Or maybe it was Hutchinson's weird robot run. As subpar as this was, Bradbury would get another shot at seeing his story adapted in the 1982 TV movie, The Electric Grandmother. That version was about an hour long, which may have given the story the room it needed. It's definitely the more widely praised iteration, receiving multiple awards upon its release. So perhaps this was a winner all along. It just didn't hit its jackpot in the Twilight Zone.
You'll never die?
Never. I know you're thinking I'm not a robot.
She's not a robot. She's a woman.